Translation.
O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Purport. Arjuna was addressed as the son of Pritha, who happened to be the sister of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Therefore, Arjuna had a blood relationship with Krishna. If the son of Kshatriya declines to fight, he is a Kshatriya in name only. And if the son of a Brahmana acts impiously, he is a Brahmana in name only. Such Kshatriyas and Brahmanas are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Krishna did not want Arjuna to become an unworthy son of Kshatriya. Arjuna was the most intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjuna abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Krishna said that such an attitude in Arjuna did not fit his personality. Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectful Bhishma and his relatives. But Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity or so-called non-violence should be given up by persons like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Krishna.
All right, so we're hearing Arjuna. We're hearing Lord Krishna instruct Arjuna. Lord Krishna is indicating he's not very pleased with Arjuna for giving up the battle, not for being unwilling to take part in the battle. Lord Krishna calls it a weakness of heart, a petty weakness of heart. So Krishna doesn't expect this kind of behavior from someone like Arjuna, who's a Kshatriya, and he's a great Kshatriya. He's a Maharati. He's one of the great Kshatriyas. He has the strength of, they say, 10,000 elephants or something like this, in something inconceivable. But anyway, he was certainly, he wasn't a coward. So it was certainly unusual for Arjuna to display this kind of behavior and to talk about not fighting. And so Krishna's not happy with them. You can see he calls it degrading impotence, does not become you. So we can understand what is Krishna's mood and how it's conflicting with Arjuna's mood. Arjuna wants to give up the battle, but Krishna is not willing to hear this. Krishna wants Arjuna to fight. And we're going to hear how Krishna goes about convincing Arjuna to fight. Okay? Any questions? Next verse.
Arjuna Uva, Sanskrit?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji, please proceed.
Arjuna Uvacha. Oh, just the whole thing?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
Sanke Dronam cha madhusudana Ishubhi pratiyotsyami Ujarhav arisudana. Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Purport. Respectable superiors like Bhishma, the grandfather, and Dronacharya, the teacher, are always worshipable. Even if they attack, they should not be counterattacked. It is general etiquette that superiors are not to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in behavior, they should not be harshly treated. Then, how is it possible for Arjuna to counterattack them? Would Krishna ever attack his own grandfather Ugrasena or his teacher Sandipani Muni? These were some of the arguments offered by Arjuna to Krishna.
So Arjuna is addressing Krishna, calling him Arisudana, the killer of enemies. Of course, Krishna had killed the killer of Madhu. Madhu was a demon who Krishna killed. There were many demons Krishna killed. But Arjuna is worried that you want me to kill my grandfather and my teacher. I will get the name Drona Sudana and Bhishma Sudana. That will be terrible. You know, your name is glorious because you killed demons like Madhu, but I'll get a bad name. I killed my teacher. If I kill my teacher, they'll call me Drona Sudana. And if I kill my grandfather, I'll be Bhishma Sudana. It's very shameful. You want me to do these kind of things? This is Arjuna's argument to Krishna. These people are my worshipful, my seniors. I should worship them. So you can see it's quite an interesting situation. Arjuna's got so many good arguments to give to Krishna. Compassion, of course, is a big one. That these people are worthy of my worship. I should be respectful. I shouldn't fight and want to kill them. Go ahead. Who's next?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I will go ahead with the next verse. Yeah. Okay, 2.5. Gurun hatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum vaikshyam apiha loke hatvartha kamamstu gurun heiva bunjiya bhogan rudya pradigyan. Translation: it would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of the great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Purport. According to scriptural quotes, a teacher who engages in abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance. Although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations, under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. But Arjuna thinks that nevertheless they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. Guru Maharaj, should we continue with the next verse?
Well, if you want, we can continue with the next verse, or otherwise, I'll give a comment. Is there any? This is an interesting point Prabhupada brings up in the purport, because Prabhupada explains that Bhishma and Drona were guilty, that they were controlled by this financial consideration. So they lost their respectability as teachers. Now, a Brahmin should never actually be controlled by financial considerations. Somebody who is actually a real Brahmin will not be concerned about money, but he'll think more about his character and his integrity. It's more important to him than any kind of financial consideration. However, Bhishma and Drona were guilty of taking the side of Duryodhana. They were living there in the palace under the care of Duryodhana. And so this was shameless. And they had witnessed Duryodhana's actions. They'd seen his behavior. They should have given him up. But they were so attached to the comforts of the palace, to the living in the palace, and the financial backing from them. They didn't give it up. They didn't want to leave. Therefore, they had to take the side of Duryodhana at Kurukshetra, and they had to fight against the Pandavas, against Lord Krishna. So this was a great shame on their part in some ways, that they're fighting against Krishna, although they actually had great love and respect for Krishna. Okay? Want to go ahead? Next verse.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Garima, do you want to read it?
Sure, sure. Na chatayat vidma kataran nagareo yadva janema yadi vo na janeyu ya evahatva na jijivisham satve vistha pramukhe dhartashtra. Translation: Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live, yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. Purport: Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjuna did not know whether he should fight and risk unnecessary violence, although fighting is the duty of Kshatriyas, or whether he should refrain and live by begging. If he did not conquer the enemy, begging would be his only means of subsistence, nor was there certainly of victory, because either side might emerge victorious. Even if victory awaited them and their cause was justified, still, if the sons of Dhritarashtra died in the battle, it would be very difficult to live in their absence. Under the circumstances, that would be another kind of defeat for them. All these considerations by Arjuna definitely proved that not only was he a great devotee of Lord, but he was also highly enlightened and had complete control over his mind and senses. His desire to live by begging, although he was born in the royal household, is another sign of detachment. He was truly virtuous, as these qualities combined with his faith in the words of instruction of Sri Krishna, his spiritual master, indicate. It is concluded that Arjuna was quite fit for liberation. Unless the senses are controlled, there is no chance of elevation to the platform of knowledge. And without knowledge and devotion, there is no chance of liberation. Arjuna was competent in all these attributes over and above his enormous attributes in his material relationships.
So Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us here the dilemma which Arjuna finds himself in. If he fights, then there's going to be a lot of deaths. And if the sons of Dhritarashtra are all killed, remember, Bhima, Arjuna's brother, has already vowed that he would kill every one of the sons of Dhritarashtra. So Bhima had made this terrible vow before the battle that he alone would kill the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, and he would drink the blood from the heart of Dushasan, because Dushasan he was the one who tried to disrobe Draupadi. So Bhima had made these terrible vows. Now Arjuna certainly knew that Bhima was capable of fulfilling his vow. So he was thinking that if we fight and all these people are killed, then it's going to be a very difficult situation. It will be unbearable to think about the deaths of all of our nephews, people who are actually from our same family, from the same line. But on the other hand, if he doesn't fight, what does he have to do? He has to go and live by begging. That's also very difficult thing to do, especially for someone like Arjuna, who is a very noble person from such a high family and who is a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas are powerful and they have that power to control others, but to go and live by begging, there would be a very big change in his life. So Arjuna debating within his mind, we have these problems ourselves in our own lives. We have to debate in our mind. You know, the inner dialogue takes place. You could call it like that, an inner dialogue between, you know, on one side you have the good you and the bad you, or the you that wants to be bold and out there, and another you which wants to be more subdued and restrained and quiet. And the different, you know, we have conflicts in our own heart going on. Different kinds of personalities are there within us. So we have that dialogue. Sometimes it's Krishna in the heart speaking to us, and we are talking to Krishna, we're debating with Krishna what to do. Making decisions is not an easy thing, but we all have to make decisions in our life, every one of us. We have to make decisions all the time. You have to make a decision. Should I eat tonight or should I not eat? We have to make a decision. What should I do? Where should I go? How should I live? Oh, so many things where you have to make decisions. But Arjuna's decision, he has a very difficult decision to make here. Should he fight or should he not fight? How to make decisions. We will see how Arjuna solves this problem, how to make decisions. We'll see in just a couple of verses how Arjuna is going to approach Krishna, and he's going to ask Lord Krishna to guide him and to direct him. Okay?
Yes.
2.7. Ramya, do you want to read?
Can you read the sloka, Vaishnavi?
Yes. Karpanyadosho bahadasvabhavah prachami tvam dharma sammudachetah yashreyasyan nishitam bruhi tanne shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Translation.
Translation. Now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered into you. Please instruct me. Puppet. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step, there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literature advises to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happens without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we became perplexed. The Vedic wisdom, therefore, advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not therefore remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purpose of this verse. Who is the
Okay.
man
Oh,
in material
wait,
perplexities?
wait just a minute. Let's just discuss this because it's a long purport. We don't want you to read the whole thing. Let's take it paragraph at a time. We'll go through it.
Okay, Guruji.
So this is a very important verse. We want to understand it properly. Arjuna had become very confused. It's described in the verse. He said, because of his miserly weakness. He had a weakness. That will be explained later on. So in the first paragraph, however, Prabhupada talks about the nature of material life, but there's always perplexities. Perplexity means like, there's anxiety, problems. There's so many different issues we have to face and we have to deal with in life. It makes life a challenge, very difficult. Prabhupada compares it, said, like a forest fire. He said the forest fire begins just on its own. Sometimes you have dry bamboo rubbing together, they produce a spark, and that spark sets fire, and the fire ignites the whole forest. So Prabhupada explains how in the world today, there's so many problems, so much anxiety, so many different fires are taking place. So how to deal with the problems of life? So he said, very important, therefore, the purport behind this verse is that we should be like Arjuna. Just like Arjuna, in this verse, he's saying to Krishna, he said, I want you to instruct me. Arjuna said, I'm confused. I don't know what I should do. I'm confused because of my weakness, miserly weakness. So that weakness will be taken care of with the help of a spiritual teacher. The spiritual teacher is there to guide us, that we approach the spiritual teacher and they can guide us properly because they can see things in a clear manner. Our vision is covered. We don't see things in the proper way because of our attachment, because of our material conditioning. We're not able to see things properly. So we have to approach the spiritual teacher. And Srila Prabhupada mentions the teacher should be in the disciplic succession. That's the important thing. Not just any teacher, but the teacher has to come in a line from other teachers. The original teacher, you know who the original teacher is?
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yes, Krishna is the original teacher, right? So Krishna, he's the right spiritual master. So because Krishna, difficult for us to approach Krishna, we have to find out a representative of Krishna. Representative of Krishna means that he has to come in the disciplic succession from Krishna. And then we can solve the problems. Okay, go ahead. You can read more.
Who is the man in material perspectives? It is who does not understood the problems of life. In the Bhagavad Aryaka Upanishad, the perplexed man is described as follows. Yo ve etad akshat gagi aviditvasma loka preti sha kripana. He is the miserably man who does not solve the problems of life as a human and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the signs of self-realization. This human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it solving the problem of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a misser. On the other hand, there is the Brahmana or he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problem of life. Ya ed akshara gagi with vasma loka prashti sa brahmanaha.
Yes, continue.
The kripas or miserly person waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc. in the material conception of life. One is often attached to family life, namely to wife, children, and other members, on the basis of skin disease. The Kripana thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the Kripana thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals who take care of children also. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his voice to protect them from death were the cause of his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duties to fight was awaiting him, still on account of miserable weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between the master and the disciple are serious, and now Arjuna wants to take very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands the Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself, and yet foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna's within and without, and one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, so we should note the comparison here between the two kinds of people. On one hand, you have the Brahmana, and on the other hand, you have a Kripana. Brahmana is a generous kind of person. The Brahmana, if the Brahmana is so kind-hearted, he would give his life for others. But the Kripana is very much different kind of person. He is miserly. He's very miserly. Just like a miser, they have money, but they just want to enjoy it. They just like to count it. They don't like to spend it. You know, you get people like that. They have money, and they never spend it. So that's a Kripana. Same way, we have the human form of life. Now, the human form of life has special facilities. And if we don't make use of all the facility of the human life, then we're also condemned as being miserly or as being a Kripana. The Brahmana will use the human form of life to understand Brahman, to understand spirit, to understand the spiritual existence, and to realize his own self as a spiritual being. But the miserly person, this Kripana, he's just attached. He can only think of his own family. He can only think of his own self, and he wants to be safe from death. So this kind of attachment, this is miserly. The Brahmana understands that he's not the body. So he identifies himself as being Brahman. But the Kripana, he's simply thinking, I am the body. And he's afraid of death because he thinks at the time of death, everything is finished. Of course, it's not finished, but you simply change the body. So Arjuna has to understand these things, and he has to hear he has to be relieved of his attachment. As Arjuna had said in the verse, that because of his miserly weakness, he could not understand what his duty was actually. He was confused about his duty. So that sense of duty should be understood. And it should be understood. Well, you may say, well, isn't our duty to our family? Yes, in one sense, there's a duty to the family. That's certainly true. A devotee also should not be neglectful of his responsibilities, of his duties in material life. But at the same time, we have also duties on the spiritual platform. We have duties to understand ourselves as souls, as spiritual beings. We have to get out of this material world. We have to solve the problem of birth and death. So for this matter, we need to be guided by a spiritual teacher. The spiritual teacher, the Prabhupada says, talks between the teacher, the guru and the disciple are serious. Therefore, Arjuna is submitting himself. He's already told Lord Krishna in this verse, now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So Arjuna is ready to take instructions from Lord Krishna. That's a good sign. That's a good qualification that Arjuna is ready to submit himself before Lord Krishna. Any comments or questions on this?
Guru Maharaj, they have written skin disease.
Yes. Skin disease, right? This Prabhupada describes this attachment to family life, the attachment to our family members as being a type of skin disease. Because our children, our family members, they'll be of the same skin, you know, similar skin. So we identify with them as being part of our body. We become attached to them. We should understand this is just only a skin relationship. It's not an eternal relationship. The family members, we come together for some time, but it's not eternal relationships. So this attachment is compared to a skin disease, just like you have some irritation on the skin, and we become affected by the skin. So we have the same kind of attachment for our family members. It's not based on the soul. The actual relationship in family life should be based on the soul, not on the body. We should see the soul within our family members. We should see the soul within our husband or wife or children, that they're also souls, spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. And in that way, we should respect them and care for them. But if we identify them as just simply being my family based on the skin, then this is a disease. This is a disease condition. Is it clear?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Guru Maharaj, there is a line in the last lines of the purport, like there is no difference between Krishna's within and without. Can you please explain that, Guru Maharaj?
Yes. No difference between Krishna's within and without. Well, probably it relates to the previous sentence. Foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. So there is a common, you know, there are many editions of Bhagavad Gita, and there is one edition of the Bhagavad Gita, which is quite popular. And in that edition of the Bhagavad Gita, because it's not the commentary of a devotee, but well, he's not a Vaishnava devotee anyway. And it's not, his commentary is not based on the teaching of the disciplic succession, but it's based on his own speculation. So he has written in his commentary where Krishna says, surrender to me. You know that verse in the 18th chapter, Krishna said, give up all religion and surrender unto me. I will free you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. I think it's 1866. So in his commentary to that verse, this person has said, it is not to Krishna that we have to surrender, but to the unborn within Krishna. To the unborn within Krishna. Now, obviously, it means this person has not understood the position of Lord Krishna, because Krishna himself is unborn. Although Krishna takes birth, actually he is unborn. So Prabhupada explains, there's no difference between Krishna's within and without. Within, there's no difference between Krishna's body and Krishna's mind and Krishna's soul, because it's all spiritual. with our body, there's a difference between the soul and the body. Our body's material, our soul is spiritual. But Krishna has a spiritual body. So the soul, the mind, the body, it's all spiritual. So for Krishna, there's no difference between Krishna's within and without.
Understood, Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah, as we go on in the Bhagavad Gita, we will see Krishna explaining that it's a problem for many people. They don't understand Krishna's transcendental position. However, Arjuna had been a friend of Krishna for a long time. Practically, they'd grown up together. They were regularly meeting together and discussing philosophy. And now at the time of Kurukshetra, Arjuna has again taken shelter of Krishna, and he's asking Lord Krishna to guide him and to instruct him. So we need to have a spiritual master. It's very important. Lord Krishna himself had a spiritual master. The spiritual master of Lord Krishna was mentioned just a verse ago. Sandipani Muni was the spiritual master of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna and Balaram both went to the Gurukula of Sandipani Muni, and they got education there. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had a spiritual master. He took initiation. Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master was called Ishwara Puri. Lord Chaitanya actually went to Gaya to get initiation, and he met his guru there in Gaya. And he was initiated into chanting the holy name. Okay.
Guru Maharaj, some people ask me, is it possible to reach back, to go back to Godhead without a spiritual master, like without taking initiation like that?
Well, it will be more difficult, certainly. You're taking a big risk. It's going to be more difficult because you're going under your own efforts. So nobody's there to help you, to guide you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go back to be with Krishna. You want to come to Krishna. Krishna himself says in the scriptures, he says that we have to approach his devotees. We have to go through his devotees to come to him. We can't go to him directly. Krishna will want to know, who are you? Who's that? How did you get here? Who invited you to come to my... But if we come under the direction of the spiritual teacher is coming in the line of disciplic succession. So he connects us to Krishna, and he gives us that authority, that authorization to come to Krishna. But to go on our own, this is not the process. It's just not the way it's done. Krishna doesn't recommend it. So to try to do it like that without the spiritual teacher, then it's, you're really giving yourself a lot of trouble. You're taking a very big risk, and you have very little chance of success.
Guru Maharaj, I have a question. Krishna himself is a guru to the entire world. So, what kind of aspects he can learn from his guru Sandipani Muni?
Well, Krishna he went to the ashram of Sandipani Muni it was at the request of his mother and father, because Krishna is portraying, he comes in this world portraying himself like an ordinary person. Although he's a divine person, he plays the part like an ordinary person. And he has a mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki. So Vasudeva and Devaki had been prisoners in the jail of Kamsa, and Lord Krishna had killed Kamsa. And after he killed Kamsa, then he released his mother and father from the prison of Kamsa in Mathura. So when Vasudeva and Devaki were released from prison, they were very glad to be with their son again. But after some time, then they began to consider that, our son needs to get some education. So they arranged that Krishna, along with Balaram, would both go to Avantipur, which is now called Ujjain. The name is Ujjain, but in the past its name was Avantipur, and Sandipani Muni's ashram was there. And Krishna and Balaram went and stayed there for about 2 months. Now, why did Krishna go there? What does he need to learn? He wants to show all of us the example of taking the teacher and studying under the direction of a spiritual master. Krishna himself wants to show the example to everyone. We should follow Krishna's example. That's also stated in Bhagavad Gita. And when we go into the 3rd chapter, you'll see Krishna explains that we should follow the actions of the great souls. And certainly Lord Krishna is the greatest of all souls. And he shows that he goes to Sandipani Muni's ashram. He learned everything. Of course, he already could do it. He didn't need to go to learn anything, but just to show us the importance of taking education and accepting an authority, accepting a teacher. Krishna and Balaram both went there, and they studied under Sandipani Muni. And they learned everything he taught them. They mastered it immediately. So you're right, he didn't need to learn anything, but he wants to show us the example. That is the point. He's teaching by his example.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
So, is it time to chant japa, Vaishnavi?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, we can chant japa. Yes, Guru Maharaj. It's 12:15 now. Yeah, we can take 15 minutes. Yeah, more and yeah. Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Chant japa. Okay. Everyone like to chant japa? Anybody increase their japa? Are you chanting more rounds? Doing any more rounds? Still maintaining 1 round? 4 rounds?
I think we like to chant japa.
We should chant more japa. Yes. Now is Chaturmasya. Now we're in the 4 months of austerity. So it's a good time to do more japa. And this year also we have Purushottam Mas coming. Purushottam Mas. It's a very good time to do more japa. And so we request all of you, try to think more, to do more japa. It's very important, very powerful. And you'll feel the benefit if you make a point to do this every day. It's a very, very, very important habit for us to cultivate. Okay, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa de Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur
Bhakta Vrinda.
Okay.
Thank you, Giriji. See you next week.
Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Have a good week.
Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you very much, Guru
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Jai.
Thank you all for joining. See you next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare